A wave of rallies is rolling across the globe in protest at biotech giant Monsanto. Campaigners and environmentalists in more than 40 countries accuse the multinational corporation of aggressively expanding into the food market and spreading hazardous products. Some of the largest demonstrations are taking place in the US, where the company was set up more than a century ago. RT's Anastasia Chelikina joins me live now from New York. Anastasia, tell us, what is the situation there? What is happening where you are at the moment?
And that's how we start things off as we work through our technical difficulties with our voice. What the heck's going on today, man?
I don't know. Must be gremlins.
Gremlins in the house, or we've got conservatives under the dashboard. One of the others occurring.
Or it could be corporate ghosts.
That's creeping me out no matter what it is. So while we fix our technical difficulties, we're going to run some really cool video, flash some cool pictures, because we're Radio Free Canada. Welcome to the show. Let's start it out by talking about Monsanto.
In the face of worldwide protests on Saturday, American biotech giant Monsanto says it respects people's rights to express themselves, but that its genetically modified seeds improve farm productivity and food quality.
People have a right to know what they're eating. Most people do think that they have the right, but those rights will never be upheld as long as corporations can spend unlimited amounts of money to influence the outcomes of elections.
They have no right to mess with our food. You don't turn food into a lab experiment.
Demonstrations against the company took place in over 50 countries on Saturday. There are also arguments that genetically modified crops can harm the environment. Last week, the US Senate rejected a bill making it compulsory to label GM foods. Monsanto argues that tests show its food is safe, the same assessment made by the US government and many scientists.
Ah, yes, one small group of shareholders owning all the food in the world.
Well, you know, if it's so safe and good, why don't they serve it in their own cafeterias?
Yeah, if you didn't know that, the Monsanto Corporation refuses to sell GMO food to its own employees in their own cafeteria. We ran a story about that last year. I'm Darren Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
Did we say that earlier? I don't think we said that.
Well, we're saying it now.
Okay, well, you probably already know that. You're tuned in to the guys who talk about what mainstream media refuses to talk about: truth, facts, and the way things honestly go.
You mean the March Against Monsanto that was worldwide, over 450 cities, 50 countries?
Yes.
And no major media.
Oh, and I know, but we've got the story. Check this out.
Opponents of genetically modified foods were out in force today, rallying in the streets of Kelowna and raising awareness about their concerns with so-called GMOs. The event, one of over 250 worldwide, all targeting Monsanto, a U.S. company that makes genetically engineered seeds and also manufactures pesticides. The company claims their seeds are designed to add nutritional benefits and improve crop yields. Opponents worry GMOs can lead to health risks and harm the environment.
I'm just a concerned mother with the dumping of all these chemicals into our food supply and environment. It's a concern for my kids.
Some protesters were also abuzz about what they say are the deadly effects of pesticides on the world's bee population.
It's believed to be one of the main contributing factors to the disappearance of the bees lately.
A few hundred Okanagan residents joined a growing global voice of concern. Welcome news as the rally wound its way past the local farmers market.
Oh, it's great. Great to see that support.
Where this organic farmer was delighted by the show of solidarity. He says genetically modified plants pose a big threat to local farmers.
As a certified organic farmer, if I have somebody growing the same crop as a GMO right beside me, I'd be losing my certification.
Most here say they want to see mandatory labeling, alerting consumers to what they're buying. And although there was no visible presence from local politicians, the folks who did participate weren't surprised by the large turnout.
There's a lot of farmers in the Okanagan, so they understand what Monsanto does to small farmers and to the crops of small farmers.
Robert Buffum, Global News, Kelowna.
Now, the very interesting part about that was mainstream media on a national basis, with 400 major centers around the world having protests,
ignored it completely.
They were out. They said, no, we're not going to cover it. We've got video from Occupy Wall Street. We've got video from Chicago, Bangladesh, Australia, I'm just Germany. The videos are rolling in.
Yeah, local media covered it.
Okay.
But not national.
Yeah, and why isn't that getting it? And once again, they're not talking about the science that's being brought out. They'd say, oh, well, there's a whole bunch of people protesting, but not about the actual real science that's verifiable and backed up that these guys are talking about.
Well, what do you expect? They can't even count to 500.
I know.
A couple hundred. At 250, you're short by 200 cities there, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. You know, the number of cities, millions of people marching against Monsanto. Genetically modified organisms are bad for you. We're showing a whole bunch of pictures from around the world right now, video from places like London and Brisbane. And, you know, people got to wake up.
Revelstoke, Spuzzum.
Yeah, I know. Way to go, Spuzzum and 100 Mile, Prince George, all my people up there. Yes, indeed. I'm loving it. What do you got?
Well,
yeah. Okay.
Well,
okay.
They did vote it down, didn't they?
Okay, let's check it out.
The Senate has decided again that it simply does not want to let states tell people whether or not they are eating genetically modified food. The overwhelming vote, 71 to 27, against the amendment squashed the chances of states to decide if they wanted to require such labeling. John, Senator Bernie Sanders made the argument that dozens of other countries around the world label products that contain genetically modified organisms. Ooh, that sounds disgusting. Why does this keep getting voted down in the U.S.?
There's a lot of debate over this, and Senate Agriculture Committee Chairwoman Debbie Stabenow was talking that genetically modified foods have actually been beneficial. You know, the genetic modifications have been beneficial to combating crop diseases and other things that have been
Wait, but hold on, John. The argument here isn't about the goodness of genetically modified foods, is whether or not they can write on the label of the food that this has been genetically modified, that your okra has been in a test tube. What's the best, really quickly, because we only have a couple of seconds, what's the best argument that a defender of this could make? Why should I not know that the corn I'm eating, you know, was done in a laboratory?
A lot of the quotes I've seen have been just defending genetically modified foods, and that it is becoming more and more part of the agricultural industry in this country. And so far, 2 states, Vermont and Connecticut, have adopted these measures in their states for food, but they've got concerns that if the federal government does not pass this, since agriculture is interstate commerce, they could actually be threatened with legal action for having these state-related bans on it.
Gotcha.
Or topics.
All right, John. Always good to see you. Stay away from any funny-looking okra, okay?
Of course, the Huffington Post getting a lot more credibility for starting to talk about the fact that labels are demanded on GMO products in nations around the world.
And Monsanto spends millions of dollars lobbying to prevent those bills from going through.
Because they know for one fact, if you saw a GMO label on your Kellogg's cornflakes, you would not be eating them anymore. I want my cornflakes back.
I mean, so much back.
I want my corn. I
want
my shreddies back. I want to be able to eat my shreddies and my cornflakes in the morning. I know that sounds so tragic and sad, but I miss those things. However, I'm getting really good at making them myself.
And of course, that guy in the set, most of the rhetoric that comes out is promoting the goodness of genetically modified foods
for profit
and how they're beneficial.
Just for profit.
Yeah, just ask these people how well that's working out.
Well, Nick Burnaby, who's a social media director for March Against Monsanto, claims in some parts of the world the corporate giant's tactics are even leading farmers to suicide.
If you look at what happened in India, I mean, there's an epidemic of suicides of the farmers because Monsanto sold them a cotton seed that they promised would do a certain thing, and then those seeds didn't perform how they were supposed to, and it drove a lot of these Indian farmers into sheer poverty, and they ended up committing suicide by the hundreds and thousands even. Monsanto affects farming communities everywhere. I mean, in the United States, they're known for suing small farmers. There's a lot of small farmers that they're putting out of business because they have genetic migration into crops that weren't supposed to be GMO, but they're getting cross-pollinated, and then Monsanto comes in. They use their government cronies to go in and shut down small farmers because their genetics from their seeds that they've patented have slowly crept into the genetics of non-GMO seeds as well.
Now, we've seen in third world countries around the world where they literally burned Monsanto seed on the docks.
Yeah, they're rejecting them in Haiti.
Mexico, they refused them. Monsanto was giving them seed for free. They said, no, we don't want it.
And China's refusing them.
Okay. So the world is waking up, and other governments are protecting their citizens.
But apparently their citizens probably have more value than Westerners do.
Yeah. I mean, for some reason, our citizens just are not worth protecting. Okay, checking in on the reality portion of the program. When this law hits there, we've got what's called the Monsanto Protection Act.
That's in the Farm Bill they just brought out in the Congress.
Yes, it's their version of Omnibus down in the United States. Within this bill, there is a we cannot sue Monsanto for genetic health damage.
That's right. However, there is some good news on the horizon. Maybe some smarter, more concerned people are prevailing.
Well, lawmakers are back on Capitol Hill this week debating new versions of the Agriculture Reform, Foods and Jobs Act of 2013, better known as the Farms Bill. The House and Senate are taking up separate legislations, but both plan to cut billions of dollars from this bill's budget. Those cuts would mostly come from the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, which provides food credits for the poor, essentially meaning that Congress's penny pinching could hit the pockets of Americans on food stamps in a major way. The House bill would cut some $20.5 billion from food stamps over the next decade, while the Senate version would cut about $4.1 billion. A report by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities aids says that the cuts actually in the food stamp program would eliminate 2 million people from that program. 210,000 of them would be children. Also on the chopping block, the so-called Monsanto Protection Act. That's what we've been reporting about. Senator Jeff Merkley has promised to introduce an amendment to repeal the special exemption granted to the biotech industry in last March's continuing resolution spending bill. The Farm Bill hasn't been reauthorized since 2008, and lobbyists and big agro businesses are working hard to make sure that they get their fill from the trough. We'll be sure to keep you updated on this story as it passes through the halls of Congress.
So that's one of those things where you kind of shake your head and go, they're cutting food stamps while their economy goes into the sewer.
Half of America lives below the poverty line. That's 150 million people.
And since they've started this food experiment with Monsanto, which was supposed to double your yields and drive down the prices of groceries, we've seen the grocery prices go up by double and triple in most cases.
That's right.
Okay. Across in Europe right now, they are faced with a $20 loaf of bread. That's reality.
And we don't want to talk about gas prices here.
Okay. Yeah, we always point towards government and the nonsense on Global News, Castanet, CHBC, on not talking about the fact that grocery prices have been tripling ever since Monsanto has been getting a monopoly on food production and processing, and the fact that these franchise chains just keep jacking up the prices for every senior that there is out there.
Absolutely. You know, we can't have people having healthy, nutritional food at a bargain price.
No, there's no.
Now you can't even get crap at a bargain price.
I know. See, that's the whole thing. Things are going down fast. That's why we're here. Don't get too concerned about things because 1 million people got out and marched against Monsanto. We saw a ton of people. Thanks to Lori Timball and Jason B. for putting together an awesome march. We've been showing pictures during the special here. We're going to do it again.
Absolutely.
We got to get out there and let the thing be known and get those skeptics looking at facts. Doctors are presenting them. We're presenting them too. I'm Darren Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
Stay tuned for more information that lamestream media is scared to produce while we take on grocery stores, banks, and we start talking about Rob Ford. Coming up with Radio Free Canada. Yeah.